kind of wanted to share with folks a little anecdote and ask you about it, Andy. When we were in Annapolis a few weeks ago, it seems like a long time ago, but we were in Annapolis on September 22nd. We were at the State Board of Elections. We were filling out paperwork, making sure we put our names in the right places. And we had a couple of journalists from two major outlets there. And, you were chatting it up with the SBE staff, and that was all, fine and good. And then there was this moment at the end after we had, filed our paperwork and we were doing a few photos and last questions with the journalist and the photographer from one of the outlets. And your dad was there, and he was serving as he's a I won't say amateur photographer. He's a photographer, and he was taking pictures. And at one point, one of the journalists, I think had heard us say that he was your dad and wanted to ask him a question, maybe really emphasizing that human interest story. And for folks who don't know, who haven't seen the episode when Steve was on the show, Steve used to work on the Hill and is sort of a pro in this area. And so he didn't take it wasn't a trick question or anything. It was just, did you always know Andy was going to run for high office or something like that? And he just said, yes. And then there was nothing else, right? And it was the perfect answer because it gave them nothing to distract from what we were saying and what the message was. But since now we're on your home turf on the podcast, let's pull that answer out beyond one word. And I want to ask you, Andy, were there moments kind of growing up in a political household where that's looking back seem like turning points towards the path that you're on now?
Yeah, so I mean, I grew up my dad was a Republican. He was a PR guy. He helped out on a lot of campaigns. He worked on the Hill. And I grew up in one of those like households where dad was a Republican and mom was a Democrat. I don't know if those still exist anymore, but we had, we watched like McNeil Lehrer NewsHour at dinner time and things like that. And so political debate was always something that was happening in our household. And I don't know, my dad and my mom may have known I was going to run for office before I ever did. But I think, from as long as I can remember, political debate and political discussion was part of our dinner table conversation, part of what we talked about in the car. It was what we watched on television. And that defined a lot of my sort of early years. And I watched CNN religiously at election time. I watched election coverage. It's like some kids are like, can I stay up late to watch X, Y, and Z? I was like, can I stay up late to watch the primary results and, whatever in a presidential race? And then I would say the other thing that was really impactful for me was joining the debate team. My mom was a national caliber debater back in the day when she was in high school. And so debate and politics were always part of the conversation for me. And so when I was in high school, I joined the debate team. When we moved to Frederick, I joined the debate team at Governor Thomas Johnson High School. And I was really active in it for 4 years. For folks that don't know, the kind of debate that I did, policy debate, is really focused on policy solutions and oftentimes also focused on values-based critiques of policy solutions. So I was a good debater. I did that for 4 years. I did it in high school. I did it in college. I coached college debate for about a decade after I got out of high school, including coming back to Towson in 2005 and coaching, and then eventually coaching the 2008 national champion team at Towson. And so for me, I think it was growing up in a political house and being involved in debate that led me to the path of running for office and running for office as a Green outside of the two-party system, speaking truth to power, challenging the establishment, and trying to offer people a vision of something different than what we have right now. And I think that I don't know that I always thought that I would run. I think when my dad answered that question that way, it was like, oh, he always knew. But it took a while for it to click for me. So yeah, I think it's not surprising looking back on it. I didn't always know that was the path it was going to be. But now it all makes sense.